Go.
Okay, so here we're talking about the endothelium, so on the slide that you're on, and then I just had you hyperlink to here where you could see me so you can actually see what I'm talking about. So the endothelial layer, the innermost lining of the vessel, the endothelial layer is just one cell layer thick, and I drew this picture here to show that it's just one cell layer thick. The thickness is that of about a piece of saran wrap, and there's different functions for the endothelial lining. One is, I want you to think about the different functions of the endothelial lining. So think about these cells here. It really helps to maintain the permeability. So if there's a tighter connection between these endothelial cells, then less stuff is going to get through or be able to come through there. If there's a looser connection between those cells, then more stuff can go through into the lining. So I want you to take a minute and think about what areas or where are vessels in your body where there'd be a tighter connection, or maybe the tightest connection that you would see with those endothelial cells. So where do you think? Use your head. That's right, in the circle of Willis in your brain. You're going to have a really tight connection because you have that blood-brain barrier. It's really trying to prevent a lot of stuff from going through. Now think about where you would have a looser connection of those cells. So kind of go away from your head. Think about some of your filtering organs, like your liver and your spleen. You want a lot of stuff passing through because you want to filter a lot of stuff in that blood, so there's going to be a looser connection. So that's one function, is that it maintains a permeability, allows stuff to come in, or doesn't allow as much stuff to come through. Another big function that it has is that it maintains the integrity, or actually it really, as long as it stays nice and intact, it maintains a nice slick surface for nice smooth blood flow, as long as that stays intact. When we start talking about how plaque develops, what happens is that endothelial lining can start to get inflamed, damage can start to happen, things can start to get deposited, such as fat, and that can start that plaque development. But as long as it stays nice and intact, it's kind of like that piece of saran wrap, it creates a nice slick surface for nice smooth blood flow. So that's another function. Another function that it has is that it helps maintain, as far as contributes to vasoconstriction and vasodilation of the vessel, because there are substances that get released from that endothelial lining. What do you think are some substances that can get released from the endothelial lining that would contribute to local vasodilation of the blood vessel? Think of a medication that we give that helps to dilate the coronary arteries, and our body naturally can produce that. So nitric oxide is something that can get released from the endothelial lining that will contribute to local vasodilation. Prostacyclin is another substance that gets released, that also gets released from our gut during like times of stress, but prostacyclin can also get released and cause local vasodilation. So think for a minute, why would you want local vasodilation? So let's say there's something going on my fingers, and the vessels locally, those arterioles that are feeding my fingers, they all of a sudden kind of dilate. What do you think is going on with my fingers? Let's say I go outside and it's snowing and I didn't wear my gloves and they get cold. Well, you can imagine there's going to be nitric oxide getting released from those arterioles, that inner lining, from the endothelial lining, to cause local vasodilation, to dilate those vessels and warm my fingers back up. Now, they also contribute to local vasoconstriction. So there's substances that get released that contribute to local vasoconstriction. So what do you think some of those substances are? That's right, there's endothelin. Also, you have ACE, the angiotensin converting enzyme that's bound to your vessels a lot of times, and if there's any angiotensin 1 coming by, it can convert that to angiotensin 2, which is a powerful vasoconstrictor. And one more thing is serotonin that can get released that contributes to local vasoconstriction. Now, why might you want local vasoconstriction? So let's go back to my fingers here. Let's say, ow, darn it, I just cut my finger. Well, those vessels locally are going to start to constrict because those substances get released from there, such as endothelin or serotonin, that will cause local vasoconstriction to slow down that blood flow so I don't bleed too much from my finger. And another function, it's various functions, another function is it contributes to the hemostatic process. We're going to talk more about this during the vascular unit, but there are substances that can get released that can activate the platelets and cause the platelets to start sticking to the area of injury. There's substances that get released that start to activate the clotting sequence, so our blood can clot. And one other function, a lot of different functions, one other function is that that endothelial lining can regenerate, can produce new cells, it can repair itself, and it can also develop collateral circulation. So here's the vessel here, and let's say we had some obstruction developing in here. Let's say there's plaque that was developing. What's happening to the blood flow going through here? Do you have as much? Do you have less going through here? So maybe distally, whatever that artery is feeding, is going to get less blood flow. Well, what can happen is that the endothelial lining can actually grow around that. And the endothelial lining, your capillaries are one layer thick. It's the endothelial lining. So basically what happens is little capillaries will grow around that area of obstruction. That's called collateral circulation, and the endothelial lining or endothelium can initiate that and basically grow that collateral circulation of the capillary networks around that to basically divert that blood flow around. It's not going to be your normal circulation if you didn't have that plaque there, but it does help to divert some of that blood flow around. And that's just basically your endothelial lining or your capillaries, because they're one layer thick, or the endothelial lining. And those, ladies and gentlemen, are the various functions of the endothelium. Thank you.